Thank you, everybody, for being here to discuss the trade deadline and also honoring the great Moses Malone later on today. I'd like to thank Landry, Markel, Mike, and Wilson. They're great ambassadors on and off the court for the city of Philadelphia, and wish them nothing but the best. Of course, I want to thank Josh Harris, David Blitzer for their support and commitment to helping us bring a championship to the city of Philadelphia and our fans. We believe we're in position to contend now, and our moves reflect that belief. We're thrilled to add Tobias, Boban, Mike Scott, James Ennis, and Jonathan Simmons to the roster. Great players, great additions, bringing us depth. Tobias Harris, Player of the Month in the Western Conference. High character locker room person, shoots over 40% from three. We had to add a player like that when we had the opportunity. Mike Scott, I played with him, I know him well. He brings depth, he brings toughness, also a great three-point shooter. We're glad to have him. James Ennis was a starter for Houston most of the season. Again, wing depth, high character person also. Jonathan Simmons, again, addresses a need that we have. Very athletic, can also shoot threes, and he'll help us. They're all very important additions to our team, and we feel they put us in position to contend right now. At the deadline, we also enhanced our flexibility ahead of a critical offseason while maintaining our resources for upcoming drafts. With the dynamic core and starting rotation of Joel, Ben, Jimmy, JJ, and now Tobias, as well as the group that's coming off the bench, we had a great depth there. We know we're positioned well. The work is not done. We want to bring a championship to our fans, and that's the goal. So it was great support from Josh and David to get this done, and we have all the resources to do that, and we will. That's our goal: win a championship, bring it to the city of Philadelphia. With that said, I will open it up for questions.
Elton, you said you have great resources, yet it seems it's obvious that the philosophy is different than it was years ago. Draft picks are going for players that try to win now. Is that the philosophy you have, to seize the moment and the opportunities that you have now and not worry about assets?
We did have some assets that came back.
Not what you gave away.
Not what we gave away, but we still have 3 first-round picks and 10 second-round picks in the next 3 years. But the goal was to seize the moment. I had an opportunity to bring Tobias Harris and all the great vets that I mentioned to help bolster our bench. And the goal is to win now, to give a chance to win now.
Before my man Howard boxed me out, the question I want to ask you is, you said we're not done now. So are you guys going to be active in the buyout market? Is there still some moves to be made?
We're always going to look and see how we can improve our team. I think last year we got lucky at the buyout market. I think we're good now, but if something comes up, we're surely going to look at it.
Elton, why, just in general, going back to the Jimmy Butler trade, you guys do have 2 young stars in Ben and Joel to build around. Why did you decide, and the organization decided over the past few months, that it was the right time to push your chips in and kind of use a lot of the assets, like you said, to get guys that can, really push forward the timeline like you guys did?
Ben Simmons seeing his growth, Joel Embiid seeing his growth. They rapidly improved over the last season. So the window is now. Our opportunity is now. So once I saw that window, we discussed taking a shot at it now, because who knows how long this window is going to be open.
Elton, for as much as you can share, can you walk us through the timeline of how the Clippers deal came together? Like, when did you start to engage them, and then how it all came to fruition right before it was finalized?
Without getting too specific, you get a lot of ideas bounced around during the trade deadline. So the idea was bounced around a little bit, nothing specific. We weren't sure if we wanted to do anything. They weren't sure if they wanted to do anything. And then it came about really fast. It's like, okay, this is going to happen. Here's the assets. We had to negotiate back and forth a little bit. But it was done about 2:30 in the morning. I'm sure a lot of people woke up to that trade. But yeah, it happened really fast.
Elton, what was this trade deadline like for you? Because this is your first time around in this role. And also, how, if at all, did the Jimmy Butler trade prep you for what was to happen this week?
Yeah, I have a great staff. Ned, Mark, Alex, Sergey, Vince. We were all prepared. They were great. Ownership, like I said, David, Josh Harris, they really had the support. So, we were prepared. We worked tirelessly. We spent a lot of hours on this so that we were ready to strike when we had the opportunity to strike.
Elton, when you talked about the players that you added, the chemistry obviously will become important. How important, as you mentioned, high character is that to making this work and making these guys work for Brett?
Yeah, no, that was important. Just the character of the person, character of the player. Adding that to our locker room. Just players that really want to win, players that are good people. That was our goal. Tobias Harris, high character. Boban, internet sensation, but he's beloved by his teammates. Great culture pieces. That's what we wanted to add.
Elton, in terms of Markel, did it get to a point where you couldn't really wait for him to really recover? You needed to kind of go out and get somebody to help you win a championship now? The goal there, we expected him to be back at some time this season. That was our hope. But right now, we had a chance to add a player, wing depth, so we had to go do it now.
But Elton, so why now with Markel? Like, if the TOS diagnosis, that if you guys thought that's going to figure things out for him, that's going to fix things, why give up on him now rather than if you could have done that last summer? You presumably could have gotten more for him. Why pull the trigger at this point?
Just where we are in the season, integrating him in a month or so when we were hoping he'd come back in 2-3 weeks, whenever that was, to add a piece now, get ready for the playoffs, and to get some assets, a first-round pick and a high second-round pick. It just felt like it was the time to do it now.
Elton, can you speak to Tobias Harris a little bit more in terms of his style of play and how he fits in and what Brett Brown wants to do with the 76ers?
Oh, absolutely. Tobias is a prolific three-point shooter, 43% from three. Matchup problem. He's hard to guard. He's tough. He defends. High character person in the locker room. So he's a great, excellent fit for us.
Elton, you acquired back here. Sorry, you acquired a couple of players who were unrestricted free agents, and Jimmy and Tobias at the end of the year. Have you been given assurances by ownership that you will do whatever is possible to bring them back? It'll be an expensive core.
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten all assurances from the managing partners that we can bring them back and sign them for what we need to sign them for. A lot of things, of course, have to happen before that, but we are all on board to keep this core together long term.
As kind of a follow-up to that, have you talked to Tobias? I know he just got here, but have you talked to Tobias at all about trying to lock him up now versus waiting till the end of the season, or how's that work?
It works that you have to wait to actually talk about it, but he's excited to be here. I spoke to his agent. They're excited to be here. They're not far from the area in Long Island, so we expect to keep this core together.
Hey, Elton. So obviously you make the deal for Jimmy and then now for Tobias. You make those deals with, like you said, an eye for hopefully re-signing those guys in the future. Do you think this is enough time to see those guys together as a starting five to gel before you kind of can make that decision in the offseason?
I think so. Coach Brown, he's committed to making this work, and I believe in him. I think he can do a great job at making this core build for the future and build for now. Be ready for now.
So, Elton, it seems like the team has gotten physically larger. You talked a couple of months ago about adding more big depth, but from a perimeter defense standpoint, do you feel like you're giving Brett the pieces to put combinations out there to stop opposing point guards?
Opposing point guards and definitely opposing wings. Jonathan Simmons is a tenacious defender. James Ennis, as you'll see, another tenacious defender. So that wing depth defensively will bode well for us.
Elton, back when you acquired Jimmy in November, did you have in mind that another big move like this could be possible down the road? And specifically,
was Tobias Harris a guy? He seems like a guy that perfectly fits what you guys have been looking for. Was he in your mind, even all the way back then in November?
So in November, as I discussed then at that press conference, we didn't know if someone would come in-house and be a star. There's a possibility because we have a lot of young talent, but we have targeted him as a player. If he became available, we would want, and we coveted him. We know he fits great into our system, and he'll be well. He'll do well.
Elton, I'm over here. On Tuesday night in the Raptors game, you were sitting there, and there was a fan that was giving you a lot of crap in the stands, and he was yelling about Mirotic and making moves and whatnot. And I think you got up and said, "I got you. Don't worry about it." At that point, when that was going on, did you know that the Clippers thing might happen that night, and did you have these other deals sort of in the pipeline, or did that come later?
Absolutely not. I was kind of just talking trash back. I knew we put the work in, and I knew we had a chance to do some things, but I wasn't sure. This thing comes so fast. It's a negotiation, but I knew we had some things that were close and in the works, and I felt the city and the fans would love them.
Elton, now I have a microphone, so I don't have to box anybody out. How disappointed would you be? Obviously, you said this team is now a contender. And people talk about the finals. How disappointed would you be if the 76ers do not get to the finals this year?
Yeah, a lot of teams got better, but that's our goal. I'll be disappointed for sure if we don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals and do well. But we're still in a position to get better in the future also, but I would be disappointed.
So you said Eastern Conference Finals. I was talking about the next step.
Yeah, that's our goal. Is to get to the finals, but you have to get to the Eastern Conference Finals before you get to the finals. But yeah, absolutely. I'll be disappointed.
Elton, we've talked a lot about Tobias, but not too much about Boban. Just how do you see him fitting into this?
Oh, he's bringing great front court depth behind Joel for sure. Like, he wasn't a throw-in. We didn't get rid of assets, only for Tobias, but we know that he's a majority of it. But we think he's going to help us. We look forward to having him on the court, being a mismatch out there and defending the rim. One of our key needs was rim protection, and he certainly brings that.
Elton, it's taken a long time to get this many pieces together and a great starting lineup and bench. Does all the pressure now go on Brett Brown to make this happen?
Not all the pressure. It's as management, staff, and myself, we're going to do our part, and I think Brett can handle it and make this work.
Elton, another one over here. You got two current All-Stars, and Jimmy Butler and now Tobias, and being a player yourself, I'm sure it's not always easy to just throw them into the fire like that. What types of things do you hope that you can kind of speed up that process to get to where you want to get to?
I think their goal of wanting to win and win big at their points in their career will help speed that up. I met with Jimmy yesterday. We were talking about all types of things and just winning and being a part of that culture. Tobias, his agent, that's all they're talking about. Like, now it's a shot to win. Now we have a team. Like, they're excited about that. So you may have to sacrifice here, but the ultimate goal is winning. So I think that will speed up that process.
Elton, over here. What's up? Jonathan Simmons, can you talk about him? Because he looks like he might be the steal in this trade. He played some really good basketball down in San Antonio before he went over to Orlando.
Yeah, no, very athletic, tenacious defender. He can shoot, he can score, very physical, rugged defender. I think the city's really gonna like him a lot.
Elton, when you look at Jonathan Simmons and the injury he suffered last spring and missing the summer, how do you factor that into his regression shooting the ball and where he might be able to go to from there?
Yeah, no, we studied it. We think he's close to being back to where he was pre-injury. So, again, we're excited to have him.
Elton, what was your reaction to the rest of the conference's reaction to you guys? Toronto and Milwaukee seemed like they felt like they needed to do something. Is that how you interpreted it? And what do you make of the conference dynamic now?
Yeah, no, it was an arms race. Teams were trying to get better, and I think 4 of the best teams are in the Eastern Conference. So they wanted to get better, and I'm glad we took a shot to get better early, and we'll be prepared.
Elton, can you just again, this is 5 months for you in this position. What have you learned about what it takes to negotiate successfully, how to handle this time of year?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of stress. I would tell parents, don't let your kids grow up to be general managers. You know, it's a but, you know, like I said, I had a great staff. The management partnership, they're all on board to win and win big. Coach, you know, our group, our players. So just stay with it. It's a lot of stress, but we made it through, and we just preparation. Just make sure you put the time in and be prepared, and we did that.
Elton, there was obviously a very public trade saga with Anthony Davis leading up to the deadline this year. I know you can't comment on other teams' players, but how does something like that shake up your war room or trade room prior to the deadline? How many conversations do you have when a public trade request is made like that?
Yeah, when there's a public trade request for, you know, any superstar or any really talented player, you know, you discuss it. But we didn't spend much time on certain things because, you know, we had a lot of our own things to focus on.
Elton, you've said you expect Zaire to be back this season. Do these trades change the timeline on him at all, or your expectations for him?
Not at all. You know, he's actually practicing with the Blue Coats, doing well, progressing well. So we still expect him to be back this year.
Do you feel like you need more guard depth on the perimeter, or do you think that you're set there?
We're always going to look, but I think we're pretty set. You know, I like our team. I like where we are. I think we've added enough depth, but we're still going to look, of course.
Thanks, Elton.
All right. Thanks, everyone.